Next up, we're going to use Google Earth to define a fictitious property boundary, or if you have one, use a real one. And then we're going to delineate the stands, mark out the stands within that. So as a preparatory step, right-click on My Places, Add Folder. Call that folder, I'm going to call it Demo Lines. You would call it Your Name, Stands, something like that. So I'm actually going to go to right-click, Properties, Thompson Stands. There you go. So what you're going to do is click on that so it's selected, and then click on our Add Path. Get this sort of out of the way, and I'm going to define this area between the two rivers here. And if I just click and hold, I can actually drag, and that draws a line there. And I'm going to somewhat carefully follow that river along. Just keep going, going. Doesn't have to be perfect. But I'm going to define this as if it were a property that I just bought, or if I just became responsible for the management of this property. And when I get to the end here, remember I created a path, which is a line, not a polygon, not a feature that has area. I don't want to get right to the end. I want to go just under it and past it. Okay. So see what I've done here? I started here and went this way. I ended here and went over it here, which creates this closed feature. Now there's a tool I'm going to show you in QGIS that's going to allow you to take this, create a polygon. Those little loose ends are just going to drop away and disappear. But because it's got this closed feature, that's what the software is looking for. It's looking for any closed feature, discarding any little tails like that. Now we're going to do another line, and we're going to click on Thompson Stands, make sure we're still in the same folder here. If you should ever forget to do that, you can just drag it into the folder, that's fine. But we're going to start with some of the broad strokes here, and I'm going to start outside. I'm going to go along this road. Again, we don't have to be perfect at this stage, and I'm going to just block out all of this conifer. Okay. And now I want to go in here and look and see is there something different about any of this. That certainly looks different there. That looks, something happened here that made that different. So I'm going to want to block some of these out. So let's go ahead and create a line here. Something different has gone on here. I want that to be a different stand. Remember, I always have to create a closed feature here. So when I go to polygonize that, it will generate its own stand. And now I'm going to clean up a little bit because I have this river here. That's not a very good boundary. So I'm going to create another one. And I'm going to start here, work my way along here, and actually close that feature off here. So now, when I go to polygonize that, that's going to be classified as river, and this is going to be softwood stand that was operated sometime in the last 15 years, most likely. This, again, is different, so let's go ahead and start outside this polygon that I want to cut, drop out here. Now that's defined as a stand. This is a stand. So far as that goes, I'm going to say OK and create another one. So this I see is different. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm drawing that boundary here, coming out here, ending there. Sorry, that's off the screen there. OK. I'm going to do another one. Click here, going right along the shore. There's that. So that's going to work because I've got an enclosed feature here, an enclosed feature here that I'm going to classify as river. But I have a whole stand here that is a closed polygon. Those little tails are going to drop away. That little tail will go away, that little tail will go away. Now we're starting to see this landscape broken up into units that make a certain amount of sense. And I'm going to uncheck roads there because that's just distracting, being a similar color. And I think I want to draw a line here. Or maybe, yeah, here would be a good place to draw it, I think. That this is different from this. It might be somewhat similar to this, but it makes sense to have things broken down into units that make a certain amount of sense. Left side of the road, right side of the road kind of thing makes a certain amount of sense. Sometimes you consider it the same, sometimes different, but for right now I want this to be different, and that's going to make a weird sliver here. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So another one here, untitled path. I'm going to click, hold, drag, chase along the stream there. I'm just going to make sure I don't cross anything weird there. That's not perfect, but it'll do for now. So now I have the option, and I think I'll take that option, to go ahead and split that basically along the road here. Now I did a pretty bad job on that, so I'm going to hit cancel. So again, line, zoom in a little bit more, see if I can do a better job on that. So I'm going to start at that landing. Go here, out here. Again, not perfect. I don't really like that, so cancel. Start again. One click to start, one click to continue. It's a straight line. I can just do clicks, double click to stop. Okay, that looks a lot cleaner. So you can do both of those things. You can trace, hold, or you can do straight lines, whatever suits your need. So here we have an issue where my untitled paths here have dropped out of the folder. I'm just dragging them into where they belong, so they're all within that Thompson Stands folder. Now instead of doing this whole thing, which you'll eventually do along those same lines, drawing first the broad strokes of hardwood versus softwood and then breaking them down by their recent management, I want to export this. So right click, save place as, I'm going to call it thompsonstands.kmz on my desktop, save. And you're not going to do this step right now, I'm just going to look and see this part. But I want you to see what it eventually turns into. We'll do this later once you get a little bit of comfort with QGIS. So here's our stand boundaries in QGIS. Looks just as messy as can be. Let's search for the tool Polygonize, recently used here under Vector Geometry. I'm going to double click. Polygonize my input layer here. I'm going to create a temporary layer because that's what I want to look at first. Close and see how all of those polygons are only the closed features. So this was river, this was one softwood stand, another softwood stand, that's the road I traced along here, that's the stand that was somewhat recently operated here, but that has become a relatively clean polygon layer. So now our messy lines feature with all these extra tails hanging off here has become a clean polygons layer, where each one of these polygons shares a boundary perfectly. Every one of the vertices defining the outline of this stand, where this stand abuts this stand, they share the same vertices. So watch there and there, all of those are the same dots that the lines are connecting. And I know that sounds simple, but imagine trying to create another polygon here that perfectly matches every single one of those vertices as you go along. Practically impossible. There are tools that allow you to trace in GIS software, but at this point this is the quickest and easiest way I can show you how to do this. So as you go here, just remember that every closed feature is going to be kept as a polygon. Any little hanging tail here just goes away.